Land Securities is pretty much the UK's largest commercial property company. What perhaps makes us slightly unique in our market of commercial property is that we also manage our properties as well. So we have that direct contact with our on-set kind of end goal retailers or office occupants directly, which makes us a little different. We have an asset base of about £10 billion, but we only have a headcount of around 600 people. And what that means for us is some quite interesting things culturally. Every individual in our business can have a very significant impact on our business. So it creates some interesting challenges. We are very expert-based. Most people in our business have a particular area of expertise that they focus on. And so you've got this element of, as we talked about before, the calibre of our people management skills is perhaps not as strong as it should be, and certainly isn't as good as we'd like it to have been about a year ago from today. So that's us as a company.
Okay, that's great. So, Anne, what was it that made you decide that you needed to rethink performance management? I mean, Land Securities is doing very well. It survived what could have been a disastrous property crash. It's on the up. Why now? What was the thinking behind that?
Yeah, I think that was the question that our board asked us when we raised this with them, because from their eyes, all the commercial metrics, we are very, very strong. We've always been successful. And there was nothing to really indicate that that was going to change, even given market conditions. We are pretty well placed in relation to our competitors and given the market, which is clearly uncertain, so we're not going to be too arrogant about what it looks like going forward. But that's raised some questions about why did we bother doing it. And I think as an HR team, we knew we could be doing more, and we knew that it could be better than it currently was. And we really had to work with our board to help them understand that. There's a few things in there. There wasn't consistency or integration between performance management, talent, succession planning, or even direct links between performance management and development. All of those systems and functions and processes were in isolation. We didn't have consistent approach across our different business units. So if you worked in the London team, which is largely office development, that was quite different, and you might have a very different experience than if you worked in the retail shopping centre side of our business. And that really raised for us some concerns about how could we maintain our position as being a leader and really say that, hands on our hearts, from a people point of view, we were doing the very best that we could. And we actually felt that performance management was the thing that could make the difference. Our current system had been in place for about 10 years and was used randomly, is probably the best way to describe it. Some people used that tool exceptionally well and got great results. Others didn't. It was very much tick box. Very, very small if it was done at all. So we had a platform that wasn't burning, and I think that's really important to understand about where our start point was. The business wasn't saying we have to do it and we have to do it now. It was us taking it to the business and saying, we think you really need to look at your people resource and how you are getting the most out of your people resource given the uncertainty that's going to continue.
That's great. So the business didn't think it needed it.
No.
The business probably didn't understand what performance management is all about. I know that some of the people in the business were going, oh, isn't that just appraisals? Don't we just have to do that once a year? Mm-hmm. So nonetheless, you secured, the three of you, some very substantial investment from the senior management into improving performance management. How did you do that? I think probably that's the single biggest question most people would like to know.
I'd say it was just an awful lot of time and a bit of a long, hard slog. So we knew this was going to be something that we had to help the business understand it was a business tool, not an HR tool. And that was really our start point. And we actually positioned this as a culture change in the company, not introducing a new appraisal system. So we were really clear about that up front. We then invested hours of just engaging with our senior management board about what performance management was, why a company should care about it, and that so what question of if we did this better, what could possibly happen in this business. And Victoria and I probably went and sat with our board every single month for at least an hour to 2 hours just to engage in the conversation. And a lot of that conversation was about what was good, what wasn't working, what we needed to improve, and to throw around some ideas about how it could change and what it could look like going forward. So it was about 6 months into the process that we actually put forward a recommendation and a cost, and it got signed off. And I think a big part of that was that actually they felt like they'd designed it, and actually it was their tool and their process that got us through that hurdle.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, and it's something that we see in a lot of places. Once the senior management understand it and think it's theirs, which is what you want them to do, you want them to take ownership of performance management, then it's much easier to get the investment. So what were the elements of the programme, and what did you actually do?
Okay, we changed our process, we changed our form, we changed and put in an online system. Everything had been paper-based before. But probably if I take you back a little step, what we did do while we were in the engagement phase with our senior management board was lay some different foundations. We changed our competency framework. You talked before, Peter, about the complexity of competency frameworks. We were in that place. We stripped out the old framework. We built a new one. I think it has about 13 or 14 indicators that you select as an individual what is relevant to your role. We as HR don't determine that for you. You and your manager sit and agree what is relevant. There were no behavioural indicators. There was no sort of tick box related activity. It was one sentence, one statement about what that competency looked like that you then tailored to your position to understand how it was relevant. So I think that gave us a very simple base to start to raise the question about how people behaved and the role of behaviour in performance. The second thing we did was introduce a talent management philosophy, and we spent time talking about the fact that we have great people in our business, and we shouldn't be talking about high potentials. We should be looking at the talent of every single individual. We are small, and it's the one thing that I think makes our jobs challenging but also a bit easier. We can take a really personalised approach to what is someone's performance and also what is their potential for the future. So we use that as a bit of leverage to get different conversations happening. So all of that happened, changed the form, changed the process. We also changed the reward structure. So we looked at how bonuses were being paid and who they were being paid to. And the quote from our current CEO, I think, makes this point very clear. What he says is, historically, we tolerated poor performance, we rewarded mediocre performance, and therefore we undervalued high performance. And it's a really clear message that says if you want your people to perform at the very best and the very highest levels possible, your reward structure must support that. So we changed that around the whole performance management system as well. Perhaps the most crucial bit is that when it came to educating, training and rolling it out, which is where we partnered with 3C, we really focused on quality conversations, and that was our line from start to end. This wasn't about a form, it wasn't about a process, it was about having a very good quality conversation between an employee and a line manager that was meaningful in terms of their current performance and future potential.
I think that's right, and certainly one of the things that we experienced when we worked with your senior team, because we engaged all that senior team first, was that even the CEO stood up and said, I have a performance review with the chairman of the board. He said that in front of all his senior team, and I will have performance reviews with all of you. So there was a very, very strong lead. Now, it all looked so simple in that session, but it only happened because of all the work that had been gone in. So we did a lot, and we're going to see a lot more in the second half of today of how that engagement process unfolded. So you did some engagement, and we did some skills training.
We did.
So we did both of those things. So we finished all that around March, April. What have been the early differences, early changes?
So we had a deadline of the 18th of May for all forms to be submitted, and we got 95% return rate, which is the first time ever in our company we have had that. And what came with that were some really clear messages, particularly from our employees. The process we went through of engaging them and communicating with them directly. They said the conversations were more meaningful, and actually they felt for the first time like they had control and ownership of their performance and their career. So they invested a lot more time in it. Managers have reported that it's taken a lot more time, and most of the managers have then said, and it's been worth it. So there's a lot more time being invested. We're getting everything back. Anne and Victoria and Nicole and I spent quite a lot of time reviewing what we've had back. And to be clear, we're quality checking, not policing the output. And so far the indications are that the first effort was very good. Certainly a marked improvement of where we were before. We had historically what we call KPI forms, and they would have 15 KPIs, objectives on it. That's where we were. We're now at a place where I think on average we've got between 6 and 7 objectives. So we think we've got some improvements to make, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. So they're probably our early indicators. And I think the biggest thing for us is how much employees have genuinely valued it and really enjoyed the experience.
I think we have. I think Anne gave us a wonderful quote when we were talking about it, that she came across somebody who said they were really looking forward to their performance review. And it is unthinkable that anyone could have said that a year ago. And that is because you took all the workforce through with you, didn't you? That was a change. When we first started to work with you, it was managers only. And we had a conversation about that. And what was it that made you think, actually, we need to give everybody this forum theatre experience, this engagement experience? Why did you do that?
So just to explain a little bit, what we actually did was we had Peter and Hedda come in and work with our most senior team first. And then we rolled out, and the plan was to roll out to line managers a half-day workshop on the process, the form, and engage them in forum theatre to kind of excite them about something different, which you'll see this afternoon. And then we took them off for a one-day skills workshop. That was the plan. Through the conversations, what became really apparent was if it is truly a business tool and you want your workforce to engage in it, we had to engage with them directly. So we ended up taking the half-day workshop and delivering that to every single one of our employees. So those that were London-based, we pulled together in rooms much like this and ran forum theatre sessions, process sessions, form sessions, where they could ask any questions, get any answers they needed. And then we also took that on a bit of a roadshow, went around the country to where some of our employees are based to get them together in their local areas to talk about it as well. And I think that's probably been one of our most successful elements that's driven the level of engagement we've had.
I think you're right. Okay, so just finally, what do you see happening next? It's been very successful so far. What's the next step?
I think that's hard. I think we've done well to this point, and for us it's very much about embedding, making sure we are really getting true value out of it. It hasn't just been a kind of a one-hit wonder start, that we can see some momentum, we can see continued enthusiasm and different behaviours and that culture change that we're looking to get. So our kind of approach at the moment is very much kind of manage, oversee, push, prod, engage, challenge as we need to, influence. And then we will start to look for opportunities for improvement and make little tweaks in a continuous improvement style, so it's not a significant change again. I think HR often get criticised for changing everything very often. We weren't any different. We need to be a little bit careful about how we introduce our changes and make sure that they are kind of business-led, the business is asking for them, and they are genuinely improving the system bit by bit.
Thank you very much. So I hope that's been interesting for you. It's certainly great for us to have worked with Land Securities and seen them through that journey over the last year. Obviously Anne and Victoria and Anne and Nicole are going to be here all day, so please do take the opportunity to talk to any of them about some of the real issues that they faced and how they dealt with them, as they've made quite a big transition over the last year. But meanwhile, can I ask you to thank Anne for coming up and
Thank you.